Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Centimeter Perfect podcast. This episode was recorded way back on October 16th. Due to some extenuating circumstances, we couldn't release it then, but we can release it now. You'll see how old and dated it is once we start talking about Horse and his retirement, but hey, we think you'll still enjoy it nonetheless. Take it easy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Centimeter Perfect AFL podcast. I'm assuming Liam is not going to leave his rendition of what I can only assume is the insane clown posse into this introduction. Liam, it's great to be back in this format. We haven't done a good old-fashioned podcast in a while.
No.
Formalities first. I'm Jesse. That's Liam. This
Hello.
is the Centimeter Perfect AFL podcast. You can follow us at CM Perfect on I've got these wrong because it's been so long.
Listen, it's been a minute, Jesse.
CM, you do it, Liam. You
I will
do it.
Jesse.
I don't want to undercut you here.
I'm not undercutting. No undercutting here, Jesse. And also, it's very presumptuous of you to think that I'm going to put my insane clown posse rap anywhere near this podcast or the video. But hey, I might do. Let's see how we go. At CM _ see, I stuffed it up too. At CM Perfect _ AFL on Instagram, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the places you find your podcasts. We are back, and as you can probably tell, a tad rusty, Jesse. It's been a few weeks. There's been some stuff going on in our personal lives. We're getting that sorted, and now we've come back just in time for some news, some fixtures, and some draft news, all of which we're going to talk about today. Isn't that right, mate?
You know the worst part about that is, and yes, you are right, but you know the worst part about that is?
What's that?
I had the right handle the whole time in my head, and then I stopped and second guessed, well, there's no underscore in this. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then there was. So congratulations to you. I'm still claiming credit for having it right in the first place, as is tradition. Yes.
That is so you get it right in your head, and regardless of what you say, you're still right.
It's not like this is recorded or anything.
You're still That's true. Sorry, I cut you off, Jesse. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I never do on this podcast, or indeed anywhere else, and that is give credit to someone else that's not me. Liam, fantastic video on the origins of every AFL club song, which for our Spotify and podcasting platform listeners, if you're not over on YouTube, highly recommend you get over there. We have some more content coming on. Liam did a fantastic run-through of all the current 18 clubs and their songs. Some interesting backstories, some really weird backstories.
Yeah, some really strange ones.
I think the best thing I learned out of that was, the past was so weird.
It was weird. Where they got their songs from, it's a fascinating old stroll down memory lane, especially for the older teams. Some of the newer teams, you're like, really? That's what they went with? But you can listen to it all on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. Please go and like it. Give it a thumbs up. Chuck us a subscribe while you're there. We're still working on some stuff. You know, we got some other projects in the works, so we're looking forward to getting them to you soon. But Jesse, today we are here to talk some footy, a few bits and bobs that has come out. Let's start with the breaking news out of the Sydney Swans that John Longmire, the horse, has stepped aside. He's quit. I was going to say while on top, but not really. He's come close a few times, but not quite on top. And now we have rise of the Cox, Dean Cox taking over the reins at the Sydney Swans. Jesse, I was shocked by this because you said something to me this morning in a chat on Instagram. And I thought you were referencing something I'd said completely unrelated about 2 weeks ago. And it took me all of the whole day to work out what had actually happened. So what's gone down?
So it broke this morning. A bunch of journalists did what they usually do, which is scamper to get over the top of each other and break it on Twitter as fast as possible, while not crediting each other as well, which is always nice. John Longmire was set to have a press conference at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time to announce his departure as the coach of the Sydney Football Club. Now, some of these posts alluded to the fact that he was going to have an opportunity to speak to the playing group first, which many people very cleverly pointed out, well, why are you breaking this before he gets a chance to do that? That's not very nice. To that, I see both sides in that. Journalists have to break the story, but it didn't need to be a rush on. But the story broke. The story basically became fact within about 20 minutes. Longmire steps down. He steps down with I think a very strong coaching career at the Sydney Football Club. I don't think you could really dispute that, but I think it's fair to say a potentially unfulfilled coaching career as well, because you'll always have that what if about the Sydney teams at the 2010s and the early stanza of the 2020s, where ultimately they got one flag to show for it. I mean, that's great. Fremantle have zero, but they really should have been, a lot more. And there were definitely grand finals I think they went into as the stronger side. You only need to look as far back as 2 months ago to see a grand final where, at least on form and on paper and across the balance of the season, they were the better side.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get it done. And not only could they not get it done, they were humiliated, much like they were in 2022. They were beaten by the scrappy underdog in 2016. They were thumped by the Hawks in 2014. So I think it's fair to say that this is going to be a real opportunity for Sydney to reset. Now, I had concerns about Sydney going to 2025.
Oh.
I don't necessarily think this allays them, because this is going to be a period of transition now for the Sydney Football Club. Yes, it does help having the man that is taking over being Horse's right-hand man in many ways, but that still changes things. And I just wonder how much that Chad Warner contract roulette that we have coming up over the next 8, 10, 12 months is playing in to some of these decisions at club level, because this does seem like a move to try to get ready for a second crack almost at building the team, basically saying, well, what we have now isn't quite what we need.
Well, you touched on something just before in relation to the unfulfilled promise of the City Swans or the like. You got to remember, I mean, this competition is probably one of the hardest to win of any sport in the world. I can't think of one that's probably harder. Maybe some of the American sports where you have to play 150 games every year just to make the finals. But I would still say he's had a pretty successful run as coach for sure. And on to your point about the person stepping in Dean Cox, he has been there for quite some time. But here's my question to you, Jesse. Tinfoil hat on, because I like throwing these conspiracy questions at you. Dean Cox had a chance to come back to his team in West Coast Eagles to coach here, but chose not to. Chose to stay on in Sydney. Do you reckon there was a little bit of a, hey, Dean, Horse might not continue. Stick around, because you never know. You might be coaching the big time here.
Well, my understanding is that's been the plan for a while. I just don't think it was potentially going to happen this quickly. So whether or not that specific conversation happened, it's very possible, but I don't think we know that for sure, and we may never know. But I certainly think there has been that longer-term succession planning at the Sydney Football Club that ensures Dean Cox would coach this team eventually. I think that's always been on the agenda in some capacity.
Just kind of fast forward a year, it sounds like, just kind of pulling the pin a little bit early. But, I get it too. It's got to be a stressful job. The pressure that comes on being an AFL coach is going to be immense. And
the traffic.
Oh, the traffic. Oh, my God. Especially in Sydney, of all places. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they go on. Were you about to say something?
No, I wasn't. Sorry, my computer's just stopped charging.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm going to need that to charge because that's kind of important.
Welcome back. Welcome back, Jesse. Well, I mean, that's it. That's all to say about John Longmire, really. There's not much more to add about that. It's a news story that's just broken today. Interesting to see how the team goes with Coxie next year. Shall we move on, Jesse, to the main feature, or no, something to say before we do?
Yeah, well, we can, but I just have a very quick complaint.
Okay,
because it wouldn't be one of these podcasts that me complaining.
Jesse, that's my bad. That's my bad. It's been so long since we've had this podcast. I forgot this is what you'd love to do. Please continue.
That's fair. So most of the AFL clubs are back training now, which is fantastic, and a lot of the clubs are doing time trials. Now, what's really annoying is they're happy to post who came top 5 in the time trials, who won the time trials, but they won't tell us the times. As someone who enjoys running, I would like to compare myself to those athletes and say, ha, you idiots, I don't care that you're paid $80,000 a year. I can run faster than you. So I'd like to know that. So please stop teasing the times and just post them on Strava.
Ain't no way you're running faster than an AFL player. What do you reckon? Who do you think you are?
If you seriously think I couldn't beat Sean Darcy in a foot race, do I have some news?
Yeah, but was he number 1 or 2? I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty sure with I was going to say with the knees the way his knees the way they are, I could probably beat him. But then I remembered how bad my knees are, and then I could probably.
I'd love it if I got to a gold medal final. It was you two. I was lined up against. That is an absolute birthday.
Yeah, you wouldn't know who to back. I mean, I Show Speed. You know that guy from YouTube. He went up to GWS. I very much know
who I Show Speed is.
You do. That's good. You see his little jaunt over to GWS during the week.
I think Toby Bedford's going to have to wear like one of the hospital face shields, but like tinted as well, so no one can look at him for the rest of the season. If you're getting cut in by I Show Speed, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, Toby, that you're not coming back from that.
Dangerous tackle, though. Dangerous tackle, I tell you. But I think didn't he beat him in the sprint though, didn't he? I'm pretty sure I beat him in the sprint.
He's quite athletic. When he does the charity matches for like Soccer Aid and similar in the soccer space over in the UK, he's obviously a bit of a wind up merchant, which we can all appreciate. But you can actually tell
you more than anyone else.
Oh, thank you. I take that with pride. We all dream of a team of Bull Hassans, but no. Look, I think we all can accept the fact he's actually a very good athlete. He's just a bit of a wind-up merchant, and two things can be true. It was good to see him down here, plugging the game too. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, that is nice, and I mean, and especially for a team like the Giants, who we'll get to in a second when we talk about their fixture, got a bit of a raw bargain in the 2025 season. That's for sure. I did like he went up for a specky. I can't remember who was holding the specky bag, but the person holding the specky bag took a bit of a step over as he launched. And then they started barking at each other. It was all very strange. Anyway, we digress. Jesse, the 2025 fixture is in, and the AFL have got a bit crafty with it next year. A few changes to the...
Crafty really is a nice way of saying rubbish. Is that a nice way of saying rubbish? Because that would describe my fixture.
I think there's some good changes in there for sure. I think there's some interesting ones. I can't wait to get your opinions because obviously you are full of them. So I'm going to be interested to see how, obviously, opening round, your favourite is back. Some strange gather round shenanigans going on as well. But
quick, find the local paddock that the farmers are shearing in and play Fremantle there. Why not? You know what? Let's send more AFL clubs to geographically pointless venues. And I'm not having a go at the towns that are getting these venues. Good for them. And it's important that we promote the game. But at the end of the day, these games are being played for premiership points. Stop sending clubs who are meant to be in their contention window out to paddocks to play for premiership points. That's absurd.
Mm. Well, actually, let's on that then. I'll chuck in my first little gather round fun fixturing. So North versus the Suns happening in the Barossa Valley at the exact same time, or an hour difference between Carlton and West Coast are playing at Adelaide Oval. Two tiny teams with very small fan bases versus two teams with rather large fan bases. Who's going to the Barossa? I thought the whole point of gather round was to spread it out so you could see all the games and see everybody. But who's going to be there? Unless you're there for a wine tour, of course.
Well, this is the whole problem. The whole point of gather round was a festival of footy. It's a stupid point, but it's the point nonetheless.
Yeah.
First of all, why is it in round 6? That's silly. If you have to do it, make it the first round of the season. Second of all, if you're spreading it halfway across South Australia, and again, I'm not advocating to strip regional football of games, but I also think there needs to be a bit of a balance here. Like, that fixture doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense to now bring everyone into Adelaide and say, nope, all of you go everywhere else but Adelaide. It just doesn't seem very fair. North and Gold Coast, barring any surprises, are contending next year. They're fine to go and play at, we'll call it a regional venue. But teams that are actually trying to push on for premiership points, including teams that already have absurd travel schedules anyway, it just doesn't quite sit right, does it? Or am I just completely blinded by rage with gather round?
Oh, I mean, there is that. That is definitely something that is definitely happening. But I think you're right. I think if they're going to do it, like, it does need to be a little bit more, fair across the board. Unless I have, and hand on heart, haven't looked at the rounds after gather round. But unless North or the Suns are staying within Adelaide, or any of the teams who are staying within Adelaide, much like Freo did last year, then you're just you're tacking on a whole bunch of stuff for these teams. And I guess that's why they've chosen North versus Suns, because they aren't contending. But then you still got to worry about the health of the players and all that kind of malarkey. But on the regional stage, Jesse, we'll stick on the regional stage. We'll move away from gather round lest you get fired up even more. North Melbourne are playing for 2 games in a row over here in Perth. One against Freo, a home game against Freo at Optus Stadium, and a home game against the West Coast Eagles in Bunbury. For the first time, premiership points have been played down south of WA. Obviously good for the regional fans to get involved around this. Jesse, what are your thoughts on the Bunbury game?
See, I'm a little bit different on this. It's not because two sides that aren't contending are playing down there. This is a deal done between North Melbourne Football Club and the WA government. So that means North are happy to play there. If North are happy to play there, then there's no issue. As far as I'm concerned, you play where your team's home ground is if you're an away side. In this situation, West Coast will be the away side. No issue with that whatsoever. That's completely different to the concept of gather round, in my view. I will say it's disappointing to see this being spun as a look how equal we've made the fixture for West Australian clubs. This never would have happened if North didn't need the cash. So if the AFL could stop taking credit for this, I think that'd be appreciated by a lot of WA fans, because it certainly does come across as quite disingenuous to market this as, oh, look, equalisation, when in actual fact, to be quite frank, the AFL's had very little, if anything, to do with this. It's a deal between the North Melbourne Football Club and the WA government. Now, I'm sure the AFL has a hand in that negotiation, but it's certainly a North Melbourne-driven initiative to play in Western Australia. So why are we here now celebrating now the competition's so even? So Fremantle can go and play in regional Adelaide for gather round. No worries, all good.
All right, well, let's move on to some other fun things I saw in the fixture. I mean, Sunday night games, Jesse, are here. Thursday night games are here for the most part. I know you're a big fan of the Thursday night game. What are your thoughts, I should say, on the AFL bringing in the Sunday nighters? Considering the Freo have most of them.
Yeah, we do. We really do. Look, for me personally, they're fine. Like, I don't have an issue with that. That's not going to really affect my life in any great capacity. What I start to get concerned about, and I will say this for the most part, the AFL hasn't really done this to the same club twice, is that they're not really making a lot of these fixtures, family friendly is not the right word, but they're not always making it accessible to a broader audience. Now, Liam, we know that if they're playing at 12 p.m. on a Wednesday at Optus, we're probably going to find a way to get to the game.
Sure.
Like, we know that. But for some people, that's cost prohibitive, work prohibitive, childcare or family responsibilities prohibitive. There's a million and one reasons why people can't get to a game of footy. I don't necessarily like the broadening of that time slot. Now, Thursday nights are a little bit different in the sense that it's very clear they're a made-for-TV product. And there seems to be an understanding that's going to get slightly less attendances for excellent TV viewership, which I don't think inherently is a bad thing. But now we're starting to stretch that chain a little bit wider and going Thursday night to Sunday night as opposed to Thursday night to, say, Sunday afternoon. And we're just starting to stretch that a little bit. It's great for the TV rights deal. It's great for Seven and Fox individually for the way they want to market the product. But I don't know how sustainable this fixture creep is. And that's many ways. That's both length of the season, it's length of the individual rounds, and it's the way these rounds are being broken up. Like, how many? We have a couple of 5-6 day breaks in here, I think, Liam and the Fisher. I know we wouldn't be an only one. I just only really pay attention at this point in the season to what affects my team.
I've got all the teams 5 days all ready to go for us, Jesse, when we get there. Don't you worry about that. But I mean, it is interesting, like, because I think it's quite nice to have the option to sit at home on a Sunday night, on a school night, getting ready for bed, because I'm an old man and all that stuff. But I got work the next day. What better to sit down on the couch and watch myself a little bit of game of footy? Going to the game, different kettle of fish. But, that's only going to happen 3 or 4 times across the season. You can handle that. But it's all for TV, right? It's all for TV. They're trying to get that broadcasting money, and it feels like they're starting to stretch out to a more fluid fixture, in the sense that you might have games potentially 5-6 days a week consistently. Tuesday night games, Wednesday night games, why not? Kind of like what they do with a lot of other sports in America, just games on all the time.
Yeah, but how is it actually going to work in practice? Like, that's during COVID, that was genuinely great fun. We had footy on 7 days a week, and it was shorter quarters, and it was just great. That was fun. But I don't see how that's going to be sustainable. I think you're right, Liam. I certainly think there's an element of that creeping in to the way the fish is being done now, and I'm not a fan of it. I would like us to get a little bit tighter. I think Thursday to Sunday is fine. obviously there's some games like Anzac Days or Easter Monday that are just iconic and they're part of the sport. And I'm not saying get rid of those, but I don't need to see Monday Night Football every week. And I just wonder, are we 2, 3, 4, 5 years away from seeing that? I don't think it's off the table at this point in time.
And what is the AFL if not to start a plan without actually thinking it through, Jesse? That's what's going to happen. We know that. But speaking of Anzac Day, I was doing a bit of a scroll through the first, 15 rounds that have been fixtured already to see how many of those cheeky double header Friday nights go on.
I was going to say, why can't we just schedule the season? It's incredibly annoying for people to have to wait to decide, are we playing at this time? Who are we playing against? I do like the concept, though, of the AFL House, that the exclusively people's 24/7 thoughts are going to the football. And it's all they think about. I'm assuming they just sit at their monitors at work watching Bounce. That's all they do. That's all they can think about.
Well, I learned they got some statistician from Canada in to help them do the fixture, apparently. Like they get and they run a massive amount of data.
What algorithm do you need to move Collingwood from the G to bloody Marvel? It's not that hard.
It is for them. It is for Collingwood. More games at the MCG, only at the MCG, please. But
count if Collingwood MCG 25.
False. No, the whole thing collapses. So I was checking for the Friday night games because those double headers. Like Freo got a Friday night game last year.
The ones that are terrible. Yeah.
So there are two instances of double headers on Friday. Now one of them makes sense, and that is Anzac Day, because on Anzac Day you've got the Anzac Day game at lunchtime, and then Freo have the Len Hall game against Adelaide that night time.
Do we have Anzac Day Eve that round as well?
Oh, let me check. I've got the fixture.
First of all, that'd be up there for one of my least favourite games of the whole season.
We do have an Anzac Day Eve, yes. Melbourne versus Richmond.
Oh, that's a tradition now. Is it fantastic? Can't wait for that for the next 80 years.
That's right. The other double header is the round before, round 6. 2 games on Friday night: West Coast versus Essendon, North versus Carlton. So that Friday night is going to be a banger. Which one are you going to watch? Who can tell? I might have the double screens going, Jesse, because those 2 games are going to be rippers.
I'll just have Bounce on.
What's that?
Per the director. I'll just have Bounce on.
A special pre-round episode of the Bounce. Jesse, we have a 9:30 breakfast game over in the West in round 1. If we're so inclined, Adelaide versus St Kilda starts at 9:30 a.m. Western Standard Time. It's a midday bounce down in Adelaide. Has there been an earlier game? I don't think there has. But if you want to go for a cheeky brunch, mate, at the pub, if there is one open, we can have a pub brunch and watch the footy. Why not?
A brunch.
Pub brunch, a brunch. That's right. Oh, we can coin that term. That's always fun. Friday night time in Tassie. There's a Lonnie game Friday night. Hawks versus Adelaide in round 14. I can't remember the last time we had a Friday night game in Tassie. That's a bit of fun, isn't it? So long as the council have paid their bloody electric bill. Otherwise, that might be pushed
really
forward.
Cold. I don't think I thought this through. Putting a round 14 game on at night time in Tasmania. It's going to be 2 degrees.
Hey, listen, I was there in Canberra for the time it snowed. If they can do it there, they can do it anywhere. One more that I'll bring up before we jump into the actual fixtures themselves. Jesse, what are your thoughts on this? The Marvel doubleheader. So May 24th. I don't know what round that is. I'm going to say 5 or 6,
9.
7 maybe, 9, around there. You got Saturday, you got the Carlton versus GWS in the Arvo at Marvel Stadium. Then you got North versus Collingwood at the G. And then we're back at Marvel Stadium for Hawks versus Brisbane. 2 games on at Marvel Stadium, potentially one of the worst stadiums in the entire competition. Twice in one day. Also, Freo played Port Adelaide that night in Perth, but no one cares about that. A Marvel back-to-back. This is a new thing they're trying. What are your thoughts on that?
I really don't want to sit in the seat the Cleaners didn't get to. Because I don't want Big Stewie's pie lathered across my seat when I got to take up my season ticket for that game.
And look, to be fair, the seats at Marvel Stadium, as a larger set gentleman myself, those seats at Marvel Stadium are built for you, Jesse. They are tiny. There is no pitch. They are not very wide. And so if Big Stewie's had his pie, it is on the seat in front of him as well as his own lap. So it's going to be everywhere. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. They're going to have to get the pressure cleaner around.
Am I weird? That's the first thing I thought of. Oh, what about the cleaning contractors?
They're probably stoked, mate. They're probably stoked. But no, so that's a few of the little oddities that I came across in the old fixturing. So what we're going to do, Jesse, we're going to run down the fixture for each team really briefly. easiest through to hardest run across the year.
Okay.
We'll go into their Thursday night, Friday night games, just go into their 5-day breaks and see who they're playing twice, which is usually how you dictate the hardness, sure, of the fixture. Starting with, who do you reckon's they got the easiest run, Jesse? Who do you reckon's got the easiest run this year?
Probably Collingwood or something.
Yeah, well, there is a team who is definitely down where they should not be, but we'll get to them in a second.
I'll have a serious guess. I'm going to say Melbourne.
Well, there's a tie. So this is based on the AFL's metrics, so it's probably slanted in some capacity anyway, but we'll go on their metrics anyway. Melbourne are tied for equal easiest.
Okay, that's a pretty good guess.
A very good guess. We'll start with them seeing as you said them. So playing twice, I play North Melbourne, Gold Coast, West Coast, Hawthorn, St Kilda, and Collingwood twice. Nice.
That's a pretty... I'd take that.
Yeah, you would take that, wouldn't you? You got one Thursday night, one Friday night, one 5-day break, equal easiest run of the lot. You look at those two playing twice teams, and you're like, yeah, you'd take that. If you're a Melbourne fan who are probably going to be
North, West Coast, and Gold Coast. Did I get all three of those?
Yeah, and yep. So North, Gold Coast, West Coast,
St Kilda.
Hawks, St Kilda, Collingwood. Yeah.
Take out Hawks and Collingwood. That's an absolute birthday for Melbourne.
Oh yeah, massively so. And for a team that's probably going to be, bouncing back potentially, hopefully for them from a pretty rough season on and off the pitch, I think they've given them a bit of a layup there.
Yeah, you'd be running out of excuses if you're looking outwards as the Melbourne Football Club as to why we couldn't succeed in 2025, or at least improve on our 2024 ladder position.
You look at that fixture and you're like, yeah, anything lower than a 12th for Melbourne would be like, okay, what's going on? Clear the decks and start again. That's pretty much all we got to say about it, Jesse. Should we just roll through them as we go?
Yeah, can I guess the other easiest one?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I feel like we're going to give a softball to Gold Coast. Have they got a softie this year?
I'll tell you what, though, Jesse, we'll do this. This is how we'll make this fun. You can guess where they are, where they will fall within the ranks, okay? No, the other one is the Wooden Spooners from last year, Richmond, who also have their equal easiest draw, according to AFL.com. They've got St Kilda, Gold Coast, West Coast, North Melbourne. Is there an echo in here? Essendon and Geelong as their double ups.
That actually sounds pretty hard. If I'm Richmond, I'm not too happy with that. Don't give me Geelong twice.
Well, that's it. Well, if you look at that on balance, St Kilda, Gold Coast, West Coast, and North, they're all the same double ups. It's just Essendon, meh, and Geelong, which will be a tough one. So
Geelong,
Geelong, what?
Listen, please don't hurt me.
Oh, okay, good.
Get away from me.
Put some emotion into it, Jesse. Geelong, I know.
I'm known for being incredibly unemotional when it comes to AFL. Incredibly unemotional.
Oh no! Well, they got 2 Thursday night games for the old Richmond Tigers and 1 Friday night game. You would say that's probably a dip on their usual prime time fare, but they have 2 5-day breaks. 2 5-day breaks, which probably takes their potentially. I'd say this is probably the hardest one. I'd say it's probably harder than Melbourne on balance because 2 5-day breaks. I mean, come on, that's pretty.
You also got to remember they're worse as well.
They are worse. That is true. Look, like I said, this is based on AFL.com's rankings, so I've got my hands are up. I didn't do this. I did see a few other rankings that came out that had everyone, actually 1 to 18th. There was no equals in there, but they were much different to this, and I'd already done the graphics for them, so I wasn't changing anything. But I think for Richmond to bounce back and get these young kids that they've got on board in this off season, that's a pretty nice little fixture to get them cracking. So, you'd hope to see them at least climb off the bottom of the ladder. You would hope, but probably not. Probably still going to be a bridge too far for the young kids. All right, Jesse, we're moving on to the 16th hardest, easiest. 16th hardest? 3rd easiest. My God. Team off the blocks. Who do you reckon? Who do you reckon's up next?
No, probably someone like Carlton, just given it was like birthday.
No. Don't get too carried away, Jesse. Don't get too carried away. No, it's West Coast. West Coast have the next easiest. They play Freo twice. Reasonable. I think so. Freo twice, obviously. Greater Western Sydney, Carlton, Melbourne, Richmond, and Adelaide. They're the double ups for the year.
That doesn't sound too easy.
No, and I was actually I was doing these notes up, and some of these teams where they fall and who they play twice, you're like, how have they worked this out? I'm guessing they had like some sort of point system where I'm guessing they took on other factors throughout the year, potentially like
the weather.
Yeah, the weather.
Does your toilet have running water if you're coming back from Launceston?
That's right. Yep.
Those type, the things you just have to budget for as a football club.
That's right. That's right. They'll factor in. They'll factor into the difficulty level of the AFL season. Absolutely. One Thursday night game for the Eagles, which is fun. No Friday night games for them, obviously. No, I'll stick with that. And 5 day breaks. They have no 5 day breaks. They've got 6 and 7s
nice.
all the way through. That is nice for them. 16th hardest. What are your thoughts on that little fixture, Jesse? What do you reckon the Eagles are going to do with their 2025?
Develop, hopefully.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it, right? I think a lot of these teams down the bottom end, you'd probably hope this for, right? And in that sense, with the fixturing they've been given, you can see that they've given them that opportunity and that chance to do so, which is nice. Although looking at their play twice, Freo won't be easy beats, GWS won't be easy beats, Carlton won't be easy beats, Adelaide probably won't be that easy either. Melbourne and Richmond probably the two you'd probably chalk them up. So not the easiest run for the West Coast Eagles, but apparently according to AFL.com, the third easiest. Who do you reckon is next off the blocks, Jesse?
I reckon Adelaide.
You're spot on, Jesse. Give yourself a high five. Pat yourself in the back. Adelaide are the next. They're equal 13th hardest for the year. Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Port, Collingwood, West Coast, and Hawthorn are their double ups. So a few big names, a few minnows, right in the middle. Happy days. One Thursday night match, Jesse. 3 Friday night matches for Adelaide.
That's interesting.
3 Friday, one 5 day break.
Did the Adelaide Football Club earn 3 Friday night matches on their performance last season?
Well, let's take out the
remember when you had to earn Friday, and that was the excuse for years out of AFL. You had to earn Friday night matches.
Oh yeah,
That's interesting.
There's some other interesting ones coming up, my friend. Don't you worry about that. We'll take away one of those Friday night matches because one of those is the Anzac Day clash against Freo. So it's
sure, that's a mulligan.
Yeah. That's a mulligan. But still, 2 Friday night games for a team that actually, were they on that Friday night with the double up? Can't remember. I deleted it. That was silly. But still, quite a lot, quite a surprise for Adelaide, I think, to get 3 Friday night games across the year, 4 prime timers. But what about that run? How do you reckon they'll fare with those double ups, Jesse?
Well, I think that pretty much sums up on balance where we expect Adelaide to be. We expect them to improve beyond that cusp of finals. They've got probably half that we'd expect to finish below or around them, and half would expect to finish probably above them. So I think on balance, that's a pretty good fixture in terms of the double up. So I can't really complain too much. If I'm an Adelaide supporter, I don't think, or as an opposition supporter, I can't say, oh, that's ridiculous. It's actually an easier run. I think that's pretty fair.
I think it's probably one of the most balanced of the lot, I would say, based on where the team is at and where they're coming from.
That's not have 14 to go through.
Well, yeah, some of them get fun. All right, let's move on to the next team. Jesse, who do you reckon is after Adelaide sitting equal 13th hardest along with them?
Who else was bad last year? Essendon.
The Gold Coast Suns with their new jersey, their new branding. It's looking very fancy. What do you reckon, Jesse?
I hope they deducted them fixture E's for that awful rebrand. It's not very good. I'm sorry. I want the Gold Coast Football Club to succeed. I just don't like the rebrand.
No, and look, if you listen to my video on YouTube and watch my video on YouTube about the song and where the song came from and how the song came about,
so weird.
Yeah, it's not surprising that they also didn't think about this rebrand either. They played twice.
Concerningly, I did actually write to the Gold Coast Football Club and ask them to put the Coolangatta Airport somewhere on their Guernsey. As enthusiasts of the show will know, I'm a big fan of the Coolangatta Airport. I think it's very well organised, but I didn't respond. So now I'm on a crusade to destroy the Gold Coast Football Club's reputation in 2025.
That's such a deep cut. There's going to be some listeners, even the people who do listen to us every week are going to be like, what's he talking about? Coolangatta Airport. But it's a great airport.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's an efficient airport. I've never gotten my bags that fast.
Well, there you go. Shout out to the Coolangatta Airport.
Gather around there.
The Centimetre Perfect podcast brought to you by Coolangatta Airport. Flying somewhere, we're efficient. That's their slogan. That was also come up with by the Gold Coast media team. Okay, playing twice: Essendon, Melbourne, Adelaide, Richmond, Brisbane, and GWS. One Thursday night.
Harder than Adelaide's, I'd say. But then I'm expecting Gold Coast to be worse than Adelaide, so I'm probably factoring that into my calculations.
That's probably fair. One Thursday night game for the Suns, no Friday night games. They've got one 5-day break in there as well. I don't really know if there's too much to say about this because I think Gold Coast is one of those teams where it's like, who knows what they're going to do. It's like,
You know what I'd like, Liam?
What would you like, Jesse?
I'd like them to make the Q Clash a Friday night game.
I think
because if we can spend all these Friday night games on teams that frankly aren't any better than Gold Coast are likely to be next season in markets that are already very well established, I don't see why the Gold Coast home Q Clash every year can't be a Friday night game. Get some eyeballs on it. Get people a reason to go to the ground. Make it something.
Jesse, you're making too much sense, mate. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. You can't have too many.
We'll just redesign the logo and knock off for the year.
That's right. Call it a day. No, I think. Do you know what I miss? I've thought about it. Do you know what I miss? I'm not too sure if they did this actually or if it just happened this way. Rivalry rounds. That's why they.
Yeah, they used to.
That's why they stopped it. Too hard to say. Too hard to say. That's what it is. Rivalry round. The rivalry rounds. Because then you can have all
framed rivalry round. You should be impressed. I even know what that is.
I mean, it is about a decade before you were born, so that's very well done. It's very well done. But I think it's a good thing.
Used to. Can rivalry round, can retro round, give us gather round in the opening round. No worries, AFL. Giving the people what they want.
Oh man, actually, retro round and rivalry round. If you're gonna like merge two together, that could be a really fun one to actually merge together. And now that Gold Coast actually has a heritage jersey, hey, make it happen. It's all money. All right, Jesse, we'll move on to the next team off the ranks, also equal 13th hardest, along with Adelaide and Gold Coast. Who do you reckon it is?
Well, you gave me a bound for Essendon before, but I still think they're going to have an easy draw this year. So I'll say they're going to be up soon. I reckon this will be North. It has to be North, doesn't it?
It is North Melbourne. That's correct. Well done.
We've gone way too high up the list for it not to be North where they finished last year.
Well, that's what I found interesting about this one. But they played twice. Bulldogs, Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney, Carlton, and Richmond are the North Melbourne double-ups. Right?
That's not very nice.
I didn't think so either. One Thursday, one Friday, 1 5-day break, equal 13th hardest. But yeah, on paper, I mean, maybe they saw, Jack Darling's playing. Give him something tough. Give him something hard.
The EV of Caleb Daniel is like 4 goals per game. It's going to swing the entire picture in North's way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty tough ask for the Kangas, given where they finished and who's below them on the difficulty scale. But hey, if they want to prove themselves, it's a pretty good way to do it. I think it's going to be an interesting year for North. And I wish I could go back and, look at our 2024 reviews and that one word that we said in relation to it. We thought that 2025 would. We can.
They're not gone forever.
They're not gone forever, but that would require me doing it now.
Liam is not deleting them as we go.
No, that's right. If you want to go hear about round 4, 2024, you can go and listen to it right now in the archives of the Centimetre Perfect podcast. Yeah, but I think this is it's going to show if North Melbourne are. It's going to be a test. It's going to be a tougher test than probably what they deserve, but I think it's going to be a massive test to see where they're coming, how they're developing, how these older heads coming in are going to help them. Yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think North's fixture is probably hardened by the fact they had now to travel to WA twice as well. Like that does make it harder for North. And look, I'm the last one to get the violent sympathy out for Victorian clubs having to travel. You're not going to hear that very often from me. But I do get the sense this is... I'm going to rephrase it. If I was a North Melbourne supporter, I'd feel really frustrated at the way the last 6-7 fixtures we've gone through have played out in the context of my team. I would be feeling quite unhappy as a North supporter at this fixture on face value. Now, yes, there is an element of, they need to start getting better at some point, and that's absolutely true. But if the whole point of the fixture is to make things fair, you can't judge them on, they've been crap for 5 years. They have to show improvement. So here, play Carlton twice. Mm-hmm. You have to actually give them the fixture based on where they finish. Really, this list should not be in any other order but last season's ladder, or at least as close to it as possible. And we're talking... 17th place North Melbourne last year as our equal 13th? Mm-hmm. That's not how numbers work.
No, not at all. And considering the layup that Melbourne were gifted, like the Demons were gifted an absolute, gift, seems a little bit harsh on the old Kangas. Seems a little bit harsh, but hopefully they do well. I don't mind seeing the Minnows getting up over the big dogs, unless it is, of course, against us. Jesse, let's move on to the 12th hardest fixture of season 2025. What say you?
Essendon.
No.
No, they're going to be like the third hardest, and I'm just grossly underestimated where the Bombers are going to be. I'm going to keep guessing them every time. 12th hardest. Okay, if it's not Essendon, I'm going to say it's Carlton.
It is Carlton.
Would you have Victorian? Oh, you're joking. They shouldn't be this low.
I know. This is the one that I was just like, you're joking me. Carlton, who finished where they finished, they just want to get them up there, don't they? It feels like they just want to get them up there. Hawthorn twice, Collingwood twice, West Coast, North, Essendon, and Port Adelaide. So on that balance, you're like, well, those are a few double ups that are pretty challenging. Hawthorn will be easy beats. Collingwood will be tough. Essendon will be around. Well, probably
it's a rivalry game.
It's a rivalry game, and Port Adelaide, who should be backing up. So when you look at it that way, maybe 12th hardest is probably a bit unfair, but they also have 3 Thursday, 4 Friday, 0 5-day breaks. So I'm like, where is this getting difficult?
I'm sorry. I go back to the whole merit for Friday or earn your Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Have Carlton earned 7 blockbuster games? I would potentially question that.
No, but haven't they always just been in and around the Friday nights anyway? Like regardless of where they are on the ladder, they've always had that. Like it's a Victorian team, a big Victorian team. They're always going to get some sort of prime time. It's just how it's going to be. But yeah, if they are basing it on merit, we've kind of got it wrong there. But we've got a better one coming up. Don't you worry. But what are your thoughts on that little? Well, yeah. What are your thoughts on Carlton's run here? What do you reckon? How do you reckon that sets them up for 2025?
I mean, it's a run they should be making finals in. At the end of the day, the lack of 5-day breaks when other clubs are having multiple is going to make things really difficult. That's only, as I understand it, in the first 15 rounds. Liam, is that right? That we're talking in the context of these.
No, so the games have been actually, you could be right. Actually,
in the context of 5 days, they haven't fixed the days yet beyond round 15, have they?
Correct. No, you're right. Yep. So that is half the first 8 rounds, basically. They know exactly when they're playing, who they're playing. Like it's all like the double ups. The double ups are season long, but the Thursday night, Friday night games are
So we're getting clubs having 2 5-day breaks at least. I don't know if we're going to get to any 3s later in the fixture, but we've got clubs having at least 2 5-day breaks in the first half-ish of the season. 3/5, given we've got 25 rounds, and in the first 60% of the season, and then Carlton have 0.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't seem particularly fair.
No, because they know exactly when they're playing, either Thursday or Friday nights, and they know they've got that for half the games, right? Most of which are probably going to be in Melbourne anyway, so they're not traveling. Then you've got those other games. They haven't got a 5-day break, so they're playing on a Saturday. That would suggest to me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, majority of the games, right? So how this is 12th hardest, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, maybe this is why it's easy. Because they're not going anywhere. They're staying put. They don't have to travel. That doesn't matter who they're playing because they're going to be tired. Although that said, 4 out of their 6 play twice teams are also in Melbourne. But yeah, I think that's set up quite nicely, I think, for Carlton. That's surprising. But yeah, 12th hardest for the Blues. Shall we move on, Jesse, to the 11th hardest team? Equal 11th
Essendon.
hardest? No, it's not Essendon.
I'm going to say the Dogs.
I scrolled away. Only because no.
Okay, who is it then? I've guessed twice now.
You have St Kilda. It's the Saints. They play Geelong, Richmond, GWS, the Bulldogs, Fremantle, and Melbourne twice. 1 Thursday, 2 Fridays, no 0-day breaks. They are the 11th hardest.
I would hope so.
What's that?
I'd certainly hope so.
What do you mean? Hope so what? That they have no 5-day breaks?
They've got no 0-day breaks.
Shut up, Jesse. This is the problem. You always call me out on something.
Is the Marvel doubleheader Fremantle? Is it play? Let the cleaning crew come in, play again. Is that how they're doing it for us?
That's right. So it's the 1 0-day. There's a problem is like I know that when you start doing that, I've said something wrong, but I have no idea what I've said wrong.
And,
'Cause
it,
it's
and
always,
you squirm, don't you? You squirm
I do.
thinking about what it was.
I got a little bit of get a bit of a squirm going, Jesse. You know how to do it. You know how to do it. But that's St Kilda's run, Jesse. What are your thoughts on their 2025?
Well, again, I mean, like, St Kilda finished below Carlton, so in theory they should be getting a lighter load, in theory. And we're talking 2 5-day breaks versus, the same amount of 5-day breaks, but a significantly different fixture profile, a significantly different opposition in terms of the double ups. I question the logic behind it. But again, was that 2 St Kilda Friday night games in the two? What if they don't deserve that? Who's going to go? If they're home games, it's going to be empty.
Well, unless they're the away team playing someone like Carlton or Collingwood who have fans who go to games, in which case it might be very nice. But yeah, two Friday night
What did you think of the new logo for St Kilda, by the way?
Oh, same but different, really, isn't it? I think it looks...
A lot of hullabaloo for nothing. They actually removed the most interesting part of the logo, which was the Latin.
Do they? I have redone our graphics for these, Jesse, and I didn't even notice, which is how ho-hum I thought it was. I have 2. Didn't it used to say KFC? That used to be great branding.
I love it. But no, they removed the Latin, which is interesting. And now it's just, you know what it looks like? It looks like a very 2015 logo.
2015 logo.
Like, cutting edge.
It's very specific.
Just that type of that kind of like that graphic in that era of what I think of when I think of like graphics.
Wow. I mean, maybe you should be doing our graphic design here, Jesse, because if you know exactly what kind of cut a image has and can put a year onto it, that is very impressive, my friend.
Our logo would just be Callum Strong with love hearts around him if I was a graphic designer that's sending him a AFL podcast.
That's true. Look, out of all the rebrands that have happened this off season, it's probably the least egregious. It's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not good. I mean, we didn't speak about Adelaide's point of crow.
Terrible.
Someone put something on Instagram where they've turned the Adelaide Crows logo sideways, the new one, and then right next to it had Ray Gun doing her dance from the Olympics, and uncanny the similarities. Unbelievable. So that's how excited we get about St Kilda. We spent the whole time talking about logos. Let's move on to the next team, Jesse. 10th hardest. You said them before, so I'll just jump in it because I nearly cut you off anyway. It is the Western Bulldogs. Playing twice, you've got North Melbourne, Fremantle, Brisbane, St Kilda, Greater Western Sydney, and Essendon. 3 Thursday nights, 2 Friday nights, 1 5-day break in there. Thoughts?
That seems about right. 10th hardest, 8th easiest. They finished 8th last season or in that bracket, so I think that's quite reasonable. I don't really have an issue with that.
Me either. I think it's pretty one of the other ones that's quite fair on balance. If you're a Bulldog supporter, you'd be happy for the challenge and happy for how that has laid down. Now, 8th hardest, equal 8th, Jesse. Who do you reckon?
Equal 8th. Essendon.
Nope.
Okay. Who haven't we done yet? I won't be Port. They'll give them a tough run. I'm going to say GWS.
No, it is the Collingwood Magpies coming in at the 8th hardest of the
That seems about right, though. That seems about right because they missed the 8. So that seems fair.
They missed the 8. Playing twice, Carlton, Brisbane, Fremantle, Adelaide, Hawthorn, and Melbourne. That's pretty tough, pretty tough double ups. As you'd expect, 3 Thursday nights, 4 Friday nights, 1 5-day break in there as well. Look, I think that it's about right, isn't it, for Collingwood? You got your primetime spots in there, as you would do for the biggest club in the competition, especially in Melbourne. Some pretty challenging double ups, a way for them to test their mettle. As much as we say about Collingwood and how much we give them shit, because it's obviously what you do as an AFL fan who isn't from a supporter of Collingwood. You look at that and you'd be like, okay, I'm probably looking forward to watching a lot of these games with Collingwood because they're going to be they're going to be crackers. You've got some challenges in there: Carlton, Brisbane, hopefully Fremantle, Hawthorn, if they can keep their run going as well. Like you kind of get excited as a footy fan for that fixture and that run. So can't be too upset with that. Do you want to add anything else about the Pies?
No, I think that's a pretty fair fixture on balance. We get the big Victorian clashes, we get the primetime slots. I don't think we expect anything else, and realistically, they should improve into 2025. So I think that's a pretty solid fixturing.
Equal eighth with the Pies, which to me, when I read it out, seems a lot easier than the Pies run on paper.
Okay.
But I'll get your thoughts on it as well. Who do you reckon it is?
I'm going to say, let's go Essendon.
No.
Oh.
I thought you were going to, I was really hoping you were going to choose someone else, and I was going to be like, it was Essendon. No, it's the Giants. The Giants are coming in equal eighth. But here are their double ups. Tell me which one you reckon's harder between. So just to recap, Collingwood, Carlton, Brisbane, Fremantle, Adelaide, Hawthorn, Melbourne, right? Remember that. GWS, West Coast, St Kilda, Western Bulldogs, Sydney, Geelong, Gold Coast.
Well, that's harder, isn't it?
I would have thought it was easier, but here's the fun part. 0 Thursday, 0
No.
Friday, 0 5-day breaks, nothing for the Giants. No primetime love for the Greater Western Sydney Giants. Going to really build that game in Sydney. Go, go, go. Nothing for the Giants.
They've given up on. We can drop that now, can't we? That's not an interest anymore.
What's that? The new toy?
Grow in the game in Western Sydney. They don't care about that anymore. The club's there. If people want to go to it, they'll go to it. If they don't, they don't. Well, it's either 15,000 people go to NG and it's like a soulless bowl, or 8,000 people go down the road to an NRL stadium, but also it's like a Live Aid concert because that's how small the grounds are. I think they're fine with it now, are they not?
I'd say so. I'd be interested to see how many they schedule in Canberra this year, because I think they get a decent crowd in Canberra, and even though it's a smaller venue, at least it looks like they've got a crowd. Seeing an NG stadium with 2,000 people in there is depressing to watch. It's for a number of reasons, because you're like, well, you want to see all of AFL do well, but they're not a bad team, the Giants.
No.
Sure they haven't got the the Premiership Cup, neither do we, but they're a good team. You'd think that their brand of football would entice people to come. I'm telling you, it's that stadium. It's in the middle of nowhere. But I thought, like, looking at that between Collingwood and GWS, I would have thought that having a double up with West Coast, double up with Gold Coast, double up with St Kilda. St Kilda Bulldogs kind of middling, aren't they? And then Sydney Geelong, maybe not. Maybe not in hindsight. Maybe it's about fair for the Giants, who should hopefully continue up the ladder. Jesse, 7th hardest, go.
Essendon.
Hey, there it is. All right, they're playing twice. Gold Coast, Sydney, Western Bulldogs, Richmond, Carlton, and Geelong. 4 Thursday. 4 Friday.
Oh, you're joking.
2 5-day breaks to
Can we count that as winning a final?
I think so. All the Essendon fans rejoice. You've finally done it. By far the highest of all of the primetime spots have gone to Essendon in this first part of the season, which I found quite fun.
Make it make sense.
Jesse's throwing his hands up. He doesn't know what's going on.
I don't get it.
Yeah, no.
Are they not going to get worse next year as well?
You would think so.
Like, they've lost their 40-goal season forward in Stringer. They haven't really improved in draft to free agency. They don't really have much more natural progression on their list to go. Like, most of their players are established in terms of their output. Okay, sure. I look forward to spending 8 of the first 15 primetime weeks watching Essendon. No worries.
Yeah, it's not like they've got the same kind of pull as Collingwood and Carlton either. Like, they don't have that
I think they do to an extent.
So you reckon?
But in saying that, I wouldn't put them ahead of those two, and they've got more games. So make that make sense.
Pretty tough double up. So I mean, Gold Coast and Richmond, probably the two easier ones there. Carlton and Western Bulldogs, Geelong, Sydney. That's a pretty tough run for the Bombers. So I can see them earning that 7th hardest tag. Now, how do we do this? So we got first, second.
You go from 7th to 6th.
3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. All right. 6th hardest, 5th hardest, equal 5th hardest, Jesse. Yeah.
This feels like a Fremantle.
Not yet.
Okay. Oh, God, Christ. Geelong.
It is Geelong. Brisbane twice, St Kilda, GWS, Port, Essendon, and Richmond. 3 Thursday, 2 Friday, 1 5-day break. They are the equal 5th hardest. I I mean, for a Geelong team who started last year really poorly and bounced back to do what they did, be interesting to see how they take on. They did, didn't they? Did they lose like the first 4 or 5 games last year? Am I remembering that differently?
It was the other way around. They flew the lids at the start of the season.
Oh, did they? And then they calmed down
They
and then
petered
flew
out.
back. Did. I could tell that I was wrong, Jesse, but the disappointed look on your face.
Who's Peter and why is he out?
Well done. Well done. 2 meter Peter. What's he done? Brisbane, St
Not
Kilda.
much in the last couple of years.
No, he hasn't, has he? Is he still on the list?
He's been quite bad. Yeah, he's been quite bad though.
Taking more of that role than Essendon up forward. That's what it was. Jackie Stringer was just taking up too much time. We're not talking about Essendon anymore. We're talking about Geelong. Brisbane, tough double. GWS should be a tough double. Port Adelaide will be a tough double. And then Essendon, St Kilda, Richmond, you probably see them getting over those guys quite easily based on that. What are your thoughts?
A fair draw, I'd say.
A fair draw, sir.
Geelong are my unknown. They're one of my big unknowns going into the season because you never want to disrespect Geelong, but there is always that question of how long can they actually keep it going for. So I think on balance, that draw is fine.
Fair enough. Equal fifth with them. Who do you reckon?
Okay, I'm going to say Port.
Not Port. It's a team that we had a lot of fun watching last year, Jesse.
The Hawthorn.
Hawthorn win. Fun. Hawthorn win.
Fifth hardest draw. Fun. Less fun if you've got the fifth hardest draw. Fun.
No, it's going to be good for them, I reckon. It's going to be good. We're going to find out. We're going to test the metal. Here are their twos. Carlton, Port, Melbourne, Brisbane, Collingwood, Adelaide. Pretty fair double-ups. 3 Thursday, 4 Friday, 1 5-day break. Yeah, right? Exactly.
Give me prime time. Inject the prime time into me.
Not forgetting, Jesse, one of those is in Launceston. I hope you're excited for that game as well. No, I think this is well earned primetime spots for Hawthorn. By far one of the most exciting teams who are playing last year. As you would have seen, if you listened to us or watched us, we enjoyed the Hawthorn ride last year. Will it continue with that draw, Jesse?
I think they'll make finals. I think there's enough natural progression in this team to overcome that difficulty increase in the draw. Will they be minor premiers? Probably not. But I think that's a draw befitting a challenge that Hawthorn should be facing up to next season.
Fair shot. 4th hardest, Jesse. Who do you reckon?
Fremantle.
Here we are. 4th hardest draw of the year, according to AFL.
Can I just pause before you read out the draw?
Sure thing.
We didn't make the finals last year.
We did not.
What? Yeah. Why at this point in the video are we talking about Fremantle?
I know. We should be talking about this
10 minutes ago?
10 or 20 minutes ago, yeah, probably. Most likely, probably, yeah. But no, here we are. 4th hardest draw of the year. Although looking at the double-ups.
We got 2003 Brisbane, 2007 Geelong, 2006 West Coast chucked in there as well. And, 1927 Collingwood. That Jock McHale side was hard to break down.
Well, thankfully, a couple of those teams you mentioned there, in modern day, we don't have twice, which is nice. But looking at the playing twice, I do wonder how they got 4th hardest out of it, which is good in a way.
Okay, that's positive.
Sydney twice, West Coast twice, Bulldogs twice, St Kilda twice, Collingwood twice, and Port Adelaide twice.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, no Carlton twice, which is great because I hate playing Carlton. They always beat us. We have 2 Thursdays and 2 Fridays, which is very fun, and then one 5-day break.
Now, in all fairness, I did whinge incessantly in this video about earning your Friday goes. I don't think you see how we've earned more than GWS have. Well, that's a bit unfair.
Again, one of those is Anzac Day, so 1 mulligan.
Okay.
1 mulligan, but still fair shout.
I try to be consistent with my complaining.
Absolutely, you should. I think that would probably just come down to the fact of fans, I would say. I can't think of any people. I can't think of any other reason why we would get that many. And I mean, Essendon got 8. What are we talking about? There's no rhyme or reason to any of this, is there?
No.
Not at all. None.
Why are we even talking about this? We know it's always a mess. Why am I even here?
We like talking about messes.
So pick one with Sam Laley, isn't that nice?
We have 3 more teams to get through, and then we'll quickly run through the draft. No, I'm okay with that. It'd be nice for us. Hopefully we make finals. Please let us make finals. 3rd hardest, Jesse?
Sydney.
Brisbane, Fremantle, North, Port Adelaide, GWS, and Essendon twice. No Thursday night games, 3 Friday night games. Not a lot of love for the minor premiers next year in the prime time. No 5-day breaks. They are the third hardest, apparently, according to AFL.com. I mean, that looks like a decent run for a minor premiership team. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't complain. Even though they're not going to be minor premiers again next year.
Oh, I don't think so either. We'll see how they go. Second, Jesse, we'll just run through these because we want to get to the draft things, don't we? Unless you want to guess.
No, I think I can survive not guessing. It's Port Adelaide!
It's Port Adelaide, yeah. Shockingly low Thursday, Friday for a contender last year. Especially because Adelaide got how many? Like 3 total or something. They play Hawthorn, Sydney, Adelaide, Geelong, Fremantle, and Carlton twice. 1 Thursday night game. That's it. 1 5-day break. That's the second hardest. Pretty tough draw, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's a real litmus test for Port.
Real litmus test for Port. And we'll finish up with Brisbane, who were the premiers last year. They have the hardest draw. Geelong, Sydney, Bulldogs, Collingwood, Gold Coast, and Hawthorn are their double-ups. Only really the Gold Coast there, you'd probably expect them to win. 3 Thursday, 2 Friday, which is pretty good for a Brisbane team. 2 5-day breaks in that time as well. Yes. So they are the hardest draw, befitting of a team that finished the top of the Pops last year. All right, Jesse, that's it. That'll do us for the fixtures for 2025. I think we might save the draft for next week. What do you reckon? I think we've gone pretty long on the old fixtures here, but that's okay. 2025. That's okay. It's not that far away, Jesse. We're very excited about the next year coming up. That's fine. But send us home. Send us away.
Same That's opening round. Thank you, everyone, for jumping in and listening to another episode of the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. Or if you're over on YouTube, thank you for watching us. Make sure you are liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, hitting the notification bell if you are a YouTube aficionado. Tell your friends, tell your family. Make sure every Christmas casual that you run into on your shopping knows that you listen to the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. Maybe even go and make a custom-made bumper sticker to be really obnoxious in the middle of Perth traffic. That's a good idea, isn't it?
It's a fantastic
really good idea. Can we get Zach Dawson to say it? Listen to the Centimetre Perfect AFL. That's probably too much. Thank you for listening, everyone. Appreciate your patience. We'll see you next time on the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast.
Bye, everybody.